Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner that has a product, service, or message that you truly believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind the scenes look at real world networking and marketing tactics while leveraging LinkedIn to get what you have in front of many more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's episode, obviously for a number of reasons, but most importantly, it's another interview episode with another incredible entrepreneur. And this individual helps people in various ways, whether it's through his company, Market Pros, First Class Business, Vision Pros. Everything is getting yourself out there and becoming more visible. And it's really having that experience that is allowing you to really connect with the right people, really make sure that the market that you're looking to serve is aware of you, stand out as that specific choice of person that people want to work with, but also creating space to break away from the monotonous things that we do each and every day. You know, how do we grow and scale what we have? So we're going to talk about all that and more. So Jackson, welcome to today's episode.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it, man. I'm glad to be here and support your podcast.
Absolutely. So before we talk about everything that you're doing with First Class Business right now and everything else with Vision Pros and everything else, if you could press the rewind button and press stop at a particular point in your entrepreneurial journey where you feel that was the pivotal moment that set you on the path that you're now currently on, what was that moment for you?
It's a great question. So, one, to honor just the general philosophy of life and abundance, like right the here and now, living in the present is so important to me. And we're constantly having pivots. I actually had a company at one point named the Pivot Point because we knew how valuable and important it was to drive on to help entrepreneurs realize they have pivots every day that they could be making to make their business grow faster. And oftentimes they're stuck on this narrow mindset that we have to move in a straight line. Well, life doesn't work in a straight line. If you want to go to Starbucks, sometimes you have to take the turnaround to get there. It's not that simple. It's not that easy in life. So let's go with the pivot point. And the pivot point was sued on a non-compete. And my business partner lost that lawsuit initially. So once again, there we were faced to the pivot. 6 months later, after trying to work with them on resurrecting the relationship that existed previously, he ended up having to countersue and he won. And then he ended up launching a few other businesses in addition, but I'd already moved on to other things and moving my visions forward. So the reality, that's just one of many pivot points that I've experienced in my life. And the key is when I let go of control and trying to control the external elements, and I focus on it controlling what I can control, what's within me, my life tends to progress better and I tend to enjoy the journey a whole lot more.
I could not agree more. The inner work is some of the most important work that we need to do as not just human beings, but as entrepreneurs. And, an old business coach that I had, Jeffrey Combs, said, when we stop trying to control all the things that we're looking to control about the control that we're looking to control and how to control it, then we can actually become free. And I also love what Eckhart Tolle says. He says the only time that you can actually control is right now, is the present. You can't do anything about the future because it hasn't happened yet. You can't do anything about the past because it's already behind us. And Jelly Roll, who some of you may not be familiar with, he's a country star. He won Best New Artist at the age of like 38 or 39. And I love this quote. He said, "There's a reason why the windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror." And I love that concept because if you think about, being in a car that your windshield, I mean, it's huge and you could see so much in front of you, but Jackson, what do people do? They stare in that little tiny rear view mirror that is showing you like a micro nuance of things that already happened, which you can't control. So, I love how you brought up the word pivot because I think one of the big words of 2023 was pivoting, right? People, there were a lot of people that came into the online space during the pandemic in 2020 and 2021. I
Yep.
think people learned that entrepreneurship, a lot of people are not cut out for it, so they maybe went back to whatever they were doing in corporate prior, but there are still a handful of people that are still involved in entrepreneurship and pivoting and understanding and being aware of maybe some changes that you need to make is very important. So,
Yep.
how important was it for you not only to pivot yourself, but to acknowledge the importance of other people understanding the importance of pivoting?
I just have to say everything. How important? That all encompassing important. Life's about change and growth. So you look at whether it's Michael Jordan's track record of more losses or as many losses as failures, more or less. It's life's about the process of failing. But if you look at all the shots he didn't make in practice too, and it's all about trying. And we're not going to be perfect along the path. So recognizing that, being humble and willing. You mentioned Jeffrey Combs. I looked up his website while you're talking. You mentioned Tully, same thing. I got that resource now in my back pocket. Jeff's site, master the skill of letting go. I was like, oh wow, no wonder. And so if we're a sponge of knowledge, that's was one of my big steps. I'm a learner. And then years into studying podcasts, more than 10 years ago, studying under the wings of Pat Flynn and John Lee Dumas, who was a client of ours at Video Power Marketing, and all the other people we worked with, I eventually got to a point where I realized, you know what? I need to stop listening to every episode. I can turn to these gurus, these people that I've seen their ethics, I've seen their authenticity. I can turn to them through Google and say, okay, Pat Flynn, Facebook ads case study, right? And see who he's hosted that's talked about that, and know that the source of wisdom is going to be pure, right? I can go to Social Media Examiner and do the same thing. Why? Because I know enough about them to know they're reliable sources, but I need to get more particular in what I'm looking at for today's need rather than just generally consuming content. I'm a producer, not a consumer.
I love that. So, a couple things. Number one, um, we have a group coaching mastermind called Expert Authority, and we always send a welcome package to every new member, and we always give a few different books. One of my latest book, my wife's latest book, and then John Lee Dumas's book, actually, The Common Path to Uncommon Success, because we teach podcasting in our group. And, John was a guest on my podcast at one point, great guy. And
Amazing.
yeah, and it's just really funny because you the 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 path of success has been laid down for us, and it's a matter of just not trying to reinvent the wheel, just go down the path that people have already carved. Like, and for me, I get inspired by those
It's
things
huge.
because um once the concept is proven to work, it's I go to the story of Richard Bannister all the time, and Richard Bannister was the first person to break the 4 minute mile barrier. And he was told
Mhm.
that if you try to break 4 minute mile, your heart's going to explode, you're going to have a heart attack, you're going to die. And he's like, I know my body better than these people do, so I'm going to go for it.
Mm.
So he proved the concept. He broke the 4 minute mile barrier by 2 seconds. It was 3 minutes and 59
It's
seconds,
a lot.
58 seconds. Yeah.
That's
Um,
incredible.
but in the 2 years post him breaking the 4 minute mile barrier, 12 other people did it. Because
Hmm.
once the concept was proven,
Yep.
I could go out and train like Roger and beat that record. So
Yep.
I
Scott, you're welcome to do this. Can I interrupt you a little bit? Because you got me
sure,
all excited,
please.
man. You got me so excited. You're welcome to screen share if you want to and pull up Entrepreneur on Fire's podcast and pull up visionproslive.com, mine. And you will see completely different colors and almost the exact same layout because we modeled John Lee Dumas. We said, you know what? We want to create a show that is as effective if we can, as much as possible, and add on as many details that we can to improve upon the existing experience. I actually did a video for John saying thank you for what I learned from him while I was at Video Power. I never got to meet him when I was working with them. And so I did this video and I've left it in an archive It's not time yet. It hasn't been time for me to mention that. It hasn't been time for me to talk to him yet. I'm away that, there's this heart and mind alignment that I believe in with certain types of relationships, him being one. Maybe this is that moment. But if you go to his podcast page on EO Fire, so we'll go over there and you'll see that, look at this layout, right? You see that I don't have everything that he's doing yet, but you see the episode. You see on the right hand side, these different things that he has featured. All of this was strategic. He spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on branding, if not millions, on figuring out what he's doing. And he's followed other leaders in the same capacity. I learned this trick through Russell Brunson interviewing with John Lee Dumas on the concept of modeling. So now if you switch gears over to visionproslive.com, not First Class Business, that's our other entity, visionproslive.com. If anybody's listening that's an entrepreneur and you want to be hosted on that, we do accept applications, of course. And so that would be the guest page. And now when you go to the logo in the top left, it'll take you to the main homepage. And again, the correlation between the two pages, you'll notice there's our episodes right there. On the right-hand side, we've got our resources, and we've got a very similar design for our newsletter concept. Why reinvent the wheel, right? Why do things differently? The only thing that we've done is we've also added in our bonus tracks now. So when you and I have finished our episode, granted that you give us permission, we'll be happy to promote your episode within the confines of our scrolling feed, knowing that that's valuable to our audience. Model what's working. You can run the same way Bannister ran without feeling like you're cheating. Come on, like it's not cheating, it's collaboration. It's using great skills that exist. It's honoring.
So something that we do. So I'm sure you're familiar with Donald Miller, who
Story brand,
story brand method,
Yeah.
marketing made simple, business made simple. So when that's another book that we give to people, we give them Marketing Made Simple, because it's literally a $30,000 book for only like $10. It's amazing what he puts in there. But the one thing that we loved is the framework of his website.
Yep.
And so
Good
what
one.
we did was
We modeled his newsletter.
my wife built out a website content form in the exact layout of how Donald Miller's Success Made Simple website is. And I basically turned my website, and I think if I can do a screen share as well. I mean, people that are watching on YouTube, I did the same thing that you did. I literally
Smart
made
man.
sure that my website looked exactly like his. So even though he's changed his around, so I can show you, I'll do a screen share and I'll show you mine and then his. It was one of those things where I couldn't, why would I reinvent the wheel? Why would I try to change things?
Ego.
Why would I try to, so
Arrogance.
right. So again, this is Donald. So he's got a little video playing here.
Oh, it's a new site. Oh,
He's updated a
it's his
little bit,
personal site. Got it.
but he's got like some stuff right here. He brings up like, key points, all the things that he does, blah, blah, blah. And then, so I went on the mine and I made sure that I changed mine around in the sense that I really wanted, I showed a video of me speaking.
Yep.
I had my 3 core values, my free opt-in, the things that the pain points they may be going through as seen on, ways to work with me, my story. This was all based off of Donald's website. So find something that
We have a really cool tangible opportunity of what I do if you'd like to be a live example.
well, I mean, this is audio only, but the video of it goes out on YouTube, but we can do maybe a LinkedIn Live where we can show people in real time this, so we can do it obviously a live demonstration, because then we can create an event, invite people to it, which I think would be of deeper value since people can't see what we're talking about. Hopefully they can get a description.
Oh, they'll get the
concepts.
They get the concepts. They get that for sure.
The other thing that I love is so Chris and Lori Harder, acquaintances of mine. I was in their mastermind a few years ago, and they released a podcast episode recently that said, the one thing that people keep negating, people are continuing to try to raise themselves up to the people that are too far ahead of them. Meaning they were basically saying, listen, don't go and try to friend Tony Robbins and try to get in his circle. His circle is closed. He has the people to the left and the right of him that he's running with. And he
Mm,
said what people need to start doing, they need to stop trying to get themselves into those circles that are too far ahead of them and look to the left and the right of you of the people that are where you are, because you're all looking to go the same place, and that's up. So he said, raise up with the people to the left and the right of you, not the people that are already above you. And I think that's so important because there's so many people around us. Like I consider myself in Donald Miller's circle, and he has no clue who I am because I love all of his teachings. I love his website framework. I love his books, all that stuff. So you can be in those circles by association. So you don't have to necessarily be quote unquote Facebook friends with them. You can follow them on Instagram and whatever else they're doing and still get the drippings of what they're doing out there on you, where you can start impacting other people obviously with what you're teaching. So
absolutely.
everything that you're doing now, obviously a lot of the pivots, what with what you're doing now with Vision Pros, because I podcasting is such a big part of my life. I've had my podcast for 5 years now. It's something that it's not even a habit at this point. It's a passion. I love it. And I have no preconceived expectation from it at this point. Like I just love meeting people. I love educating. What you dove into it about 10 years ago, and I got on board about 5 years later. What was the big attraction for you in getting involved in the podcasting world? And what's your message to the people that are still twiddling their thumbs about starting their own podcast because they feel like no one would listen to what they have to say anyway?
To be clear, I missed the podcast wave. My podcast launched in April, so it's not even a year old. And most people who see it and come onto it, I'm sincere about this. We have at least 30% of people come off of our show, and we ask them right away, we would love your feedback. Let us know, like, well, what can we do to make this even better for the next guest? But everybody interrupts me. Again, well, I shouldn't say everybody. More than 30% of them say, Jackson, this is hands down the best podcast experience we've ever had. And they assume we've been doing this for a long time. I studied behind the curtains for a long time. I've been an integrator for many years. 2010 was when I learned about podcasts. And it was from a guy who I had very little respect for, who was very creepy, and was interviewing with the same company I was. And it actually deterred me from podcasts. I was like, I don't want anything to do with whatever he's talking about. It wasn't the time. Fast forward a couple of years, I worked at Video Power Marketing, and we launched a special guest hangout. And we were working with John Lee Dumas. So again, I got to see behind the scenes of what he was doing. We're working with Dan Martell at SaaS Academy. I started opting into all this really cool stuff. I'd been an entrepreneur. I'd done things the hard way. And then I took a phone call for Jake Larson. It was my first call for Video Power Marketing. This guy goes, I said, hey, this is Jackson with Video Power Marketing. How can I help you? And he said, I just wanted to make sure that you guys spoke English. I was like, interesting. So I said, yes, sir. Tell me about yourself. And he said, well, I own this business. I own several locations. We're looking to expand. I heard Jake on a podcast, and I shouldn't do this, but I listen to this business podcast religiously. Take my money. My mind was blown. I've never ever had a lay down like that. I've never had somebody just call for a brand that's small or smaller. Granted, Jake was known as the YouTube ad expert of the world. Ryan Dice put him on stage, a digital marketer. He was involved in video long before anybody else. But that podcaster who said that Jake was the man was the influence that told this business owner with 8 locations that Jake was the one to invest in. He had spent more than $100,000 on his YouTube channel already. He had spent a lot of money on infrastructure, and here he comes ready to work with us because of that podcast experience. So I've known for a long time now the importance and value of the market. What I didn't know when we decided to launch this podcast, I just went live. I called it a podcast. My team turned it into the rest. And I was like, oh, we really do have a podcast. But what I didn't know, as I start planning and building our episodes, was that podcasts are not just podcasts. We are media production companies with the same capacities and tools to become the CNNs, the Fox News. We have media production capacities to be able to launch amazing channels. And anytime you and I are not live, we have dead air. And for the younger folks who don't know what that is, That was back when you turned the TV on and there was nothing on, and you had to wait for a program to come out. I'm not bothered by that. That's okay. Life's abundant. If I can fill my podcast, so Vision Pros Live, I hope someday we have like 20 different hosts. I hope someday we have different tiers. My ego has to stay out of the way of my brands and ventures. And if I can do that, I can have an amazing legacy. We have multiple shows too, but Scott, you're doing amazing. You got 700 reviews plus on your iTunes. I went and listened to your message the other day about LinkedIn and what's up with the mobile app and how I can go in there and see, who I can celebrate their careers and whose birthdays are coming up and stuff. I didn't know there was a simple place for me to go do that until I scrolled through your episodes and said, you know what, that one's probably got something in it that I need right now. I'll listen to that. And sure enough, it did. So this world of podcasting, what we can do with a microphone to bless people's lives and help people, I could go on for hours.
Yeah. It's been said that your ego will be your greatest overhead. And
Ooh,
if
I
you
like
allow it to be, and you can't. So as we start to wind down, before I get to my final question, for anyone that's listening to this that is, intrigued, encouraged, inspired by what you're doing, who's the best person that you're looking to connect with or should connect with you, and what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Absolutely. VisionProsLive.com is, for me, that's where I would go because I like to get to know the identity, the virtue, the character of the people that I work with. That's why that comes first. What's my vision? What are other people's visions? My number one vision, my number one responsibility is to my 4 children. I got 4 children. I want to be the best that I can for them and influence for them. My number one vision and purpose in life is to bridge the economic gap between North America and South America. I speak Spanish fluently. I recruit a lot of people out of Spanish-speaking countries in order to help me facilitate this work. So in other words, firstclassbusiness.io. If you're in a position where you need growth, go there. VisionProsLive.com. If you want to follow the leaders, connect to people like Scott. Oportunidades de trabajo para latinos. For those who need opportunities to work or are looking to recruit virtual assistants that may or may not speak English, but facilitated through our program, those are the 3 main opportunities that I would guide people towards.
Love that. And again, all the information that Jackson mentioned right there will be in the show notes, description of this episode, and the email that goes out the morning that this episode comes out. So you're not going to have to go too far. I highly, highly encourage you reach out to him if there's something that he said that resonated with you. So Jackson, final question before we sign off. What does success truly mean to you?
For me, success is simple. It's peace. That's the one from my perspective, humble perspective. I don't know everything. I really don't know if I know anything, but from a religious standpoint, Christ brings me peace, and that's what I'm guaranteed. As long as I am working on being my best self, then I will have that. So at the end of the day, if I can go to sleep at night knowing that I have peace because I can forgive myself, I can forgive everybody else, and I can look at being my best self the next day at all times, like I know that I had a successful day. The external outcomes, they don't matter. I need to plant seeds, as Steve Harvey would say. Plant seeds every single day, cultivate the earth, do what I need to. And that's just a metaphor for doing good in life. And if I have peace, I've had success that day, and I believe you have too.
Every human being wants similar things. We want peace, ease, abundance, health, wealth, all those things. And it starts with us. So Jackson, I appreciate you so much for coming on to the show today. As I forementioned earlier in the episode, we're going to be doing a LinkedIn Live at some point together so he can show you guys in real time the power of what he's doing with Vision Pros. So again, just be on the lookout for that. We'll send an email to kind of let you guys know what's going on for future collaborations between myself and him. So Jackson, thank you again for being here today.
Scott, love what you do, man. You're amazing.
Thank you, brother. So are you. And for all the listeners, thank you guys so much for all the support you continue to give this show. Again, if you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever, leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you loved and what you would love to hear more of. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for checking out today's episode. If you could, please support this podcast by hopping over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any place that you're listening to this. Leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you loved most and what you would like to hear more of. But also, if you would like to learn how to take your business to the next level, whether it's using LinkedIn or working directly with myself and Nancy in our intimate group coaching programs, you can head over to www.thetimetogrowth.com or scottaaron.net to learn more. Thank you again for your support, love and gratitude, and I'll talk to you soon.